There are a lot of things happening this year in the year 2020. So, should you buy a home now or should you consider waiting a bit longer so that when the price of the property crash, then only you'll buy? In this video, we want to attempt to answer some of these questions so that you can make an informed decision whether to buy a property now or later.
Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Calvin and I'm from Wealth Insiders. Let's talk about our topic for today. I think for the last couple of months, the world has been suffering. Economically, the whole world is affected by the situation in the year 2020. So as a result, many of us are staying home and we have not been visiting the shopping mall or even going to the restaurants or even the retail shop to buy things. So small businesses or even major businesses are facing big problem and unemployment rates have gone up. So as a result, countries around the world, different governments have been doing things to stimulate the economy. And among the things that they are doing is that they are also lowering the interest rates. Of course, the reason why they lower the interest rates is also to stimulate the economy, like I said, so that people will want to spend money. At the same time, loans are getting cheaper for people to borrow so that they can buy things and things like that. Because the interest rates today is an historical low, it's so low now. It has also an impact on house. If you're thinking of buying a home, so what has happening is that you are able to get a home loan at a very, very low rate. What does that mean? It means that every month your monthly repayment for your home loan is going to be lower than, let's say, a year ago or even 6 months ago. So as these home loans are getting cheaper and cheaper, so as a buyer, that's one of the things that we can truly consider thinking of buying a home, because it is much cheaper now, right? But of course, in different countries and different banks, they have their own vetting system, their own criteria, their own requirement on whether who can get a loan from them. So of course, it varies from countries to countries, banks to banks. So if you intend to buy a home, so I suggest that you go and check with your current bank so that you know whether the vetting, the way the requirement to get a loan, is it tighter or is it back as normal? If you're thinking of buying a home, then this is what I suggest you to do, is that you go to the bank and get a fixed interest rate loan. Yeah, what it means is that the interest rate is fixed, that let's say down the road, maybe because most of the housing loan is not going to be short, right? You won't be getting a housing loan for 5 years or even 7 years or 10 years. Most of our housing loan we are going to get is maybe 30 years or something like that. So it's actually a very long period. So if you're able to lock down that interest rate to the fixed interest rate, which is lower, then what happens is, say in a year's time, when the economy recovers and when the interest rate goes up, then what happens is your home loan, the interest is fixed. It doesn't go up at all. But most of the time, a lot of us, when we get a home loan, we get a variable interest rate. What it means is, as the interest rate goes up, the amount we pay every month will also go up. But you have a fixed interest rate home loan, what actually happens is that your interest rate, the monthly payment that you're paying, is still going to be that same low number. So this is the thing that you can do. Take advantage of the situation at this time. The second thing that actually is happening due to this current situation is that there are more sellers than buyers, for a few reasons. First reason is that a lot of people who intend to buy homes, what do? Because of the economic situation and the market situation, they are spooked. They said, no, I'm not going to buy a house. I'm not going to buy a home now. So what actually happened? They pull up from market. But on the other hand, the supply, the number of people wanting to sell homes would probably increase for various reasons. Okay, so now what happened is a demand and supply situation, right? So assuming this is your supply, and originally, in order to maintain equilibrium or maintain the price being equal, right? So there's this amount of supply and this amount of buyers. And actually what happens is, in this situation, though the number of sellers remains the same, but what actually happens is that the buyers now suddenly disappears because they just don't want to commit to a large investment, taking up large loan in this time. So you have more sellers than buyers, and naturally as time goes by, you will want to the sellers will have no choice, because to attract buyers, to attract people to buy their property, what actually happens is that their price will have to come down. And that's what's going to happen, that there are more sellers and than buyers. As a result, prices goes down. If you like topics like this and learn how to be financially free, retiring early, and also about wealth creation strategies, start right now by clicking on the subscribe button here and click on the bell, so that whenever I come out with new videos, you'll be notified. The third thing that is happening in the market is that there are a lot of properties that is on foreclosures and is for auctions. So you may ask, why is it happening? Well, it is because a lot of them, the people who owns those properties, they are still paying their housing loan. But unfortunately, they may be business owners, and in this kind of economic situation, their business is suffering. So they can't keep up with the maintenance or even paying this housing loan. So as a result, they have to liquidate, or even for that matter, they have not been paying their housing loan, and that's why they have been foreclosed by the bank. Others is also because of they may be working, but because again of the economic situation, they may have been laid off, or some of them may have a salary cut, and again they can't keep up with this payment of the housing loan, or they may have delayed paying this housing loan, and that's why there are banks are coming after them and foreclosing it. For a person who are going to buy a property for their home or even for investment purposes, then you find that you can actually go to these auctions where you can get to buy these properties at a very, very low price. So in a way, it is good for you these kind of times if you're intending to buy a home or even a property for investment purposes. But fortunately, for many countries, what is happening is that their government is trying to avoid these things from happening. So what they have done is they have introduced certain programs where you don't need to pay your monthly housing loan for a certain number of months. In the US, it's called the forbearance program, where that's what's happening. So you don't need to pay your monthly repayment of the housing loan. So as a result, these kind of auctions may not happen or may happen, but it's good to know that, and do keep a lookout if you're intending to buy a home or even for investment purposes. Look out for auction properties. So the fourth thing is that certain countries are coming out with programs to stimulate the economy, specifically for the housing market. So depending on the countries you are from, your government could be providing stamp duties, that you don't need to pay stamp duties, or you don't need to pay real property gains tax, things like that. That will help the transactions to happen in the housing market. So, like for example, in the UK, they are having the government has introduced a stamp duty holiday for buyers. So, which means as a buyer, what is happening is that instead of paying a stamp duty to buy a property, now you don't need to. You have a holiday, right? So which means you don't need to pay so much when you acquire a property. Even if you decide to want to buy a property either now or in the future, depending on what your interpretation of the market is, this is a good time to go out there to have a look at the market, right? Reason is because many of the real estate agents are also desperate to sell properties, to show properties in the hope of selling the property. And sellers themselves are really very motivated to sell properties. So maybe you could actually be getting a property at a very low price, and coupled with you are able to get a housing loan, fixed housing loan with a low interest rate. And that will be definitely something that you can do, that you want to do. But if you decide not to buy a property now and you want to buy a property later, this is still, you can use this time as an education
for you to go out there to see what is available on the market and roughly how much is the price of certain houses or certain homes that's on the market. So you can actually go do that, because at this moment in time you don't really have much competition. I'll be putting out some videos in the next few weeks on how you can buy a property even at this point in time. So do subscribe. The button is up there, so you go and just click and then click the bell so that when I come out with that video, you'll be notified.